fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice.
Greetings world, we are Anon DK. In this tale of two cities we have for you today, we will look very briefly at the many things going on in Jerusalem and Rome. Previously we have exposed and explained the agenda of the elite to bring World War III, the war between Muslims and Jews, the invasion and overthrow of Jerusalem, in order to relocate the ruler of the global community, the One World Order, to Jerusalem. As we have discussed and explained this war agenda in great detail in many previous videos, we will merely brush over the whole picture so you can see the elite's hands working now and discuss what is to follow. The false peace upon the rise of the one world leader. Please see our Do Not Be Deceived series and stay tuned for more information on this. Know how the elite work. Problem, reaction, solution. The problems are rising up. The reaction will be wars, and the Vatican, as always, will hand us the solution. Unity and peace. False peace. Remember, it is called deception because you will believe it if you do not open your eyes to see and your ears to hear. Be vigilant. So let us begin in Jerusalem. Syrian chemical weapons facilities continue to be attacked by Israel. Syria has issued a warning. This is no surprise as we see many countries uniting to confront Israel because of its constant bombing of innocent people. Israel continues to target and bomb convoys in Lebanon, as well as causing endless violence against Palestine. Israel police are now evicting Palestinians from Jerusalem. An estimated 40% of Palestinian children detained by Israeli police are raped. This should be no surprise as the Talmud teaches raping a child is not a crime. In fact, it goes further to state if the child is 3 years old or younger, it does no damage. At least the Muslims marry their children. We see the elite mind in these occult religions. It is clear. The Israeli Defense Force has conducted its largest war preparations in the first week of September. The preparations are for war with Hezbollah. Protests and riots due to Israel forcing metal detectors to be placed in mosques. One more thing to accelerate the agitation. Of course, we cannot rule out that these could all well be paid protests and riots just as they are in every other country. The people are kept poor and ignorant and angry by divisions in militant police. They are upset at their government. This is the same in many dozens of countries. This has all increased quickly over the last few years. We can easily see the elite's agendas carried out. The masses feed into their hands. Jerusalem is at war. War is the reaction to the elite's problem. Meanwhile, Rome is prepared for the solution. The alien deception to finalize the one world order, bringing everyone under their one and only religion. No longer will people be divided into the different religious cults the elite have made divide the occult, believing theirs is correct. The elite will be free to announce at long last that there is only one religion, the worship of Lucifer. As we have already discussed the third temple before, we will lightly touch on it here. The importance of Jerusalem to the elite can be seen throughout history. The two cities, Rome and Jerusalem, both have incredibly deep meaning and value to the elite. Currently the elite rule from Rome, but when they were the global government a couple of thousand years ago, their cherished city was Jerusalem. In the mid-1990s, a statement was made by Pope John Paul II, during an interview broadcast in Italian over a Polish radio station, regarding the Vatican's ultimate goal of transferring its headquarters from Rome to Jerusalem. In 2013 this happened. Deputy Foreign Minister Danny Dialon and Monsignor Ettore Balestrero, Under-Secretary of the Holy See for the Relations with States, sealed the deal and handed Jerusalem to Rome. As history continues to repeat, Rome has taken the city again and plans to rebuild Solomon's temple. But first Jerusalem must fall. In the public eye, there must be devastation. The people must beg for unity and peace. Jerusalem is the place the elite intend to rule from and have already prepared for the move. Jerusalem will be the throne for the one world leader called the Antichrist, meaning the one in place of Christ. This will be built.
What's the significance of the Temple Mount to Muslims?
For Muslims, it's the third holiest site in their religion, but interestingly enough, it's not the Dome of the Rock, which is the most prominent site, it's the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
What's the significance of the Temple Mount to the Jewish people?
In Jewish tradition, this is where Adam was created. It was also the place after the flood that Noah brought an offering to the Lord. We know that this is the place where Abraham brought Isaac to be sacrificed, also the place where David bought the threshing floor, where he said he wouldn't make an offering to God that cost him nothing. And it's the site of the first and second temples. It was believed by most also the place for the third temple where it will be built. There's a huge movement about coexisting on the Temple Mount, and even recently, within the last 2 weeks, I know of a meeting between Christians and Muslims and Jews who all are talking about what are the possibilities and how could they establish both a temple and a mosque.
Unity of religions. This must take place for the New World Order. This, as you can see, will create the one global religion. The elite's agendas all fold into each other. This is well underway. The temple has already been built but is waiting to be assembled. First, Jerusalem must fall. It must be destroyed to be rebuilt. Even the Levi priests of the Levi bloodline have been brought together to be prepared. It is all prepared down to the garments encrusted with rare jewels and golden cups, bowls, and other ornaments.
You have Jews that have come from around the world. You've got folks that are right here studying for the priesthood. Not only are they studying for the priesthood, but they are actually making the utensils that they plan to use in the temple.
If he should come at any moment, they want to have everything ready so when the temple is up, they'll be able to go in and...
And I can't say it enough, the fact is this is happening in our lifetime while we're living. We're seeing this.
But what about this final deception Rome has planned? One way Israel is preparing for the final deception, which is the alien agenda, is through using Project Bluebeam. The testing and conditioning for this has been going on for a long time and will, like everything, only increase. We can hear these sounds of trumpets and see these sights in many countries across the world. Preparing the ignorant masses for signs and wonders which will be so shocking. People will follow and believe, simply because their uneducated minds will be unable to comprehend what they have never been told about. Aliens. UFOs. This is no secret, though the elite make it seem that way to the masses who never look. Numerous documents, most of which were written before the last 500 years, detail and expose them. We have discussed this upcoming deception before, but it is beginning to come about now, and many are already deceived by it, simply because the propaganda makes it sound nice, as propaganda always does not make it truth. Beware the one who comes in peace. Look deeper. In order to bring in a one-world government, to have what the elite call peace, every country must be thoroughly collapsed, which we see happening now in various ways: hurricanes, wars, floods, earthquakes, currency collapses, and more. This will escalate to a rapid climax as the hand of chaos closes. We see CERN and HARP working overtime. CERN, which is controlled by the Vatican, continues the elite's push to break the separation of spiritual and physical worlds, tearing the veil. So the UFO and alien agendas are coming up more and more and becoming mainstream, conditioning people's minds for the deception. So the masses will believe the lie that the ones we will see must be worshipped. They will be seen as gods or ancestors or creators, believing the lie that they will come in peace and unify us all. Those who are not prepared will fall for this and believe, having been brainwashing into the mindset that human state is weak and pathetic. These that they call aliens are the ones the elite worship, Lucifer and the fallen ones, demons. They will finally be able to break into our plane once again, thanks to the help of CERN and so many other projects that have been working to tear the veil that keeps us separated and unable to see the spiritual world without seeking. Those without the armor of truth will be destroyed. They will be destroyed for lack of knowledge. You do not have to believe it for it to be real. Truth is truth and facts are facts. They do not change to make us feel better. More often than not it causes great distress, for that is the effect of deception.
Is that all of the conspiracy theories that you've ever heard about one world government, about the UN takeover of the world, all of those conspiracies have now been laid to rest. There's nothing conspiratorial about it. It's all published. The UN-funded Commission on Global Governance began meeting in 1992 in earnest and met for 4 years, and last fall released their final report. It is entitled Our Global Neighborhood.
If the Bible is simply a book of myths, fairy tales, and stories, then it is disturbingly accurate in describing what we see unfolding in our current world climate. In my personal journey, I've come to the conclusion that the biblical worldview best explains the origin of evil and its many symptoms to mankind. It explains human suffering and the inescapable reality of death and decay that we experience in this world. But most importantly, it reveals why mankind has used deception as its most powerful and reliable instrument to carry out the plan set in motion by an ancient hate. Alex Jones, in his film Endgame: Blueprint for Global Enslavement, summarizes the sacred mission of the global elite as, quote, to have a two-class system where the underclass are forced to live as slaves in tiny enclosed cities, while the elite enjoy the land of the earth, evolve into superhumans with the aid of implantable technologies, live eternal lives, and travel the cosmos. This is the promise given to the inner members of the New World Order and the agenda of the Bilderberger Group, end quote. This sacred mission of the world elite has been the primary motivation for the establishments of several layers upon layers of systems in this world. The following sectors are the major components of infiltration in this plan. They include the political, economic, military, scientific, educational, technological, and social facets, with the spiritual ideologies being the main ingredient guiding this massive deception. Many of these facets overlap and build on each other. Using these various components of human society, the world elite are tirelessly working to allow the formation of a one-world currency, massive depopulation, a one-world religion, and of course, a one-world government. Satan, being the father of lies, was able to redefine what good meant. Upholding to the traits of a great deception, Satan's lie contained some truth. But to understand how this lie has permeated throughout history and is being used to create the New World Order, we must break down this passage. Satan knew that when they ate of the fruit of this tree, that mankind would be subject to death. This lie is the foundation for New Age ideas like reincarnation. It is the idea that even though we may physically die, there is no heaven or hell, but instead we return with another opportunity to attain enlightenment. It is also the one lie that many of the world elite believe today, which is that through the use of intellect, technology, and science, man will achieve immortality. This will become more obvious as we look into the sacred promise or ancient hope held close to those who are at work for the New World Order. Satan was implying here that secret knowledge and wisdom will be available to them. This is the main proponent behind the nature of secrecy which all secret societies possess. It is the idea that unattainable information will be partitioned to those who submit to the request of the one who holds the knowledge. It also plays on the hope promoted by the New Age movement, which claims that we are all spiritually evolving into a higher consciousness, and that if one would only tap into this universal energy force, they would realize that they are God. The New World Order and its components, secret societies, New Age movement, transhumanist movement, and even the alien agenda in many ways is predicated on this one lie. The idea that man would become God is the elusive carrot on a stick that has been behind many, if not all, of man's attempts to acquire power, authority, and dominion over the masses while conquering death and nature in the process. Furthermore, we can trace ideas like pantheism and the concept that God is a force, or that everything within the universe is God and thus we are God, back to this lie. It is the ultimate deception because it plays on human pride. It is the driving force behind ideas such as morality is relative and karma. It is the denial of evil and accountability to sin. This is the core of the Luciferian doctrine. It is the blueprint to what the select group of men have been working on for centuries. Exclusive knowledge to achieve immortality and become gods, all without the help of the Creator God, but by our own use of intellect. As we will come to see, this idea, which goes by many names like the Sacred Promise and an Ancient Hope, has been sought after by men for centuries.
And that is sometime by mid-century, we might make contact with an intelligent civilization in outer space.
Plus you have, just lots and lots of astronauts. They say that every time that we had a mission, we were being followed by something. We were being watched. We saw some craft. We saw something, right? And you can watch some of these videos that have been released by NASA, and you can see these things out there, right? So there's definitely something out there. The question is, what is it?
Scholars with no religious affiliation who have looked into this topic of UFOs and ETs for several decades have come to very interesting conclusions. Jack Vallée, a venture capitalist, computer scientist, author, ufologist, and former astronomer who helped build the precursor to what we know as the Internet, has studied the UFO phenomenon for over 3 decades. After looking into the relationship between UFOs, cults, religious movements, demons, angels, ghosts, and psychic phenomenon, Vallée changed his proposed hypothesis from the UFO phenomenon being an extraterrestrial origin, in other words, craft and beings from another planet or a faraway galaxy, to a multi-dimensional visitation hypothesis, or interdimensional. In his book, Messengers of Deception, Vallée states, quote, "Human beings are under the control of a strange force that bends them in absurd ways, forcing them to play a role in a bizarre game of deception." End quote. Later in the same book, he states, quote, "The UFO phenomenon represents a manifestation of a reality that transcends our current understanding of physics. The UFOs are physical manifestations that cannot be understood apart from their psychic and symbolic reality. What we see in effect here is not an alien invasion, it is a control system which acts on humans and uses humans." End quote. J. Allen Hynek, a U.S. astronomer, professor and ufologist best remembered for his contributions in the field of UFOs and acting as scientific advisor to UFO studies taken by the U.S. Air Force, again came to same conclusions of the UFOs and alleged extraterrestrial phenomenon.
John Mack, who recently passed away, but he was at Harvard, and according to his own testimony, he says, I was not a believer in this thing. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He just kept hearing about these things. So he came to this conclusion that these were real physical abductions. Very, very slowly he came to that conclusion, and rather skeptically. He didn't want to come to that conclusion, but eventually the data was so much that he could not overcome it. Because he's discovering that these beings that are taking people are smarter than us, they're stronger than us, and they have a hybridization program going on. Right. That they're creating a hybrid race to take over, and he says at best we're going to be second-class serfs. So he's very discouraged, and I can see why.
In an interview with L.A. Marzulli in the book Alien Interviews, Jacobs comments on the alien abduction phenomenon, stating, quote, "This is a phenomenon that is either psychological or it is happening. There is very little in the middle. I have learned that the abduction phenomenon is vast, global, and it occurs with great frequency," end quote. Whitley Strieber, in his classic account of an alien encounter in the book Communion, records his experience with these entities, stating, quote, "I became entirely given over to extreme dread. The fear was so powerful that it seemed to make my personality become evaporate. Whitley ceased to exist. What was left was a body in a state of raw fear so great that it swept about me like a thick, suffocating curtain, turning paralysis into a condition that seemed close to death. I died and a wild animal appeared in my place," end quote. Then, in a later release in a book entitled Transformation, The Breakthrough, he dives deeper into the experience, stating, quote, "Increasingly, I felt as if I were entering a struggle that might even be more than life and death. It might be a struggle for my soul, my essence, or whatever part of me might have reference to the eternal. There are worse things than death, I suspected. So far, the word demon has never been spoken among the scientists and doctors who are working with me. Alone at night, I worried about the legendary cunning of demons. At the very least, I was going stark, raving mad," end quote.
This was 15 years ago. The big names. Never before had anybody said that an experience could be stopped. As a matter of fact, they all said that it wasn't possible to stop an experience. Mm-hmm. Okay? But yet we had a gentleman that said he did, and in a particular way. So I contacted these top researchers around the country, got their home phones, called them up. They're nice guys. They can talk. You can talk to them just like me and you were talking. Most of them are very nice gentlemen. And I've met them at the conferences over the years. And I said, "Guys, I've got a very unusual case here. I'd like to run it by you and see what you think." And after I shared the story, they all asked, "Can we go off the record?" And I said, "Well, that's fine." I said, "I'm just trying to get answers here." Well, when I say go off the record, that means I can't tell you who said what, but I can tell you what they said. Well, these guys, they said that, yes, we had come across similar cases where people had cried out in the name of Jesus, or had quoted scripture, or had sung a Christian hymn, and the experience stopped. And I said, "Really?" And I said, "First off, I've never read anywhere where you guys have said that an experience can even be stopped. And then second, I've never read where you've stated where they could be stopped in any type of manner like this." And I said, "Why is that?" And one of two answers, or both answers, would come out from each of these researchers. The first one was pretty common amongst them, was we didn't know what to make of it. But you know what? I would have been fine with that, because to me, that was an honest answer. I mean, I didn't know what to make of it either in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So I could relate to them on that answer, but they always would follow it with a second answer. And it was, we were afraid to go there, meaning the spiritual side of this, mm-hmm. because it might affect our credibility in the UFO.
You can find this full documentary called The Age of Deceit in the links in the description. We can find many documents exposing what governments in the Vatican call aliens, extraterrestrials, and UFOs. You can see below links to some documents exposing plans for false flags, political and public propaganda, to shape the image and idea of each in the public mind. This was easily done through comics, movies, and more. Where do the ideas in movies come from? Experience. Like everything else. NASA has stated, quote, "There is no question that there are extraterrestrial beings and they are out there, and if we will, we can contact them. No doubt." End quote. The Clinton POTUS emails touched on the subject as well. The Jesuit priests who have come forward to disclose the truth about it all have been silenced, as we see happen to most who try to expose truth. Dr. Guy Consolmagno, a Jesuit Vatican astronomer, stated he would baptize extraterrestrials and even claimed Jesus was a star child of an alien race. We have exposed how the elite have created religions to mirror their occult beliefs and mindset. For those who are unaware of the Vatican's Lucifer project, let us find out what it is.
Well, up on top of Mount Graham in Arizona, there's an observatory complex. It consists of 3 very high-powered telescopes. One is the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope. There's a radio telescope, and then there's one called the Large Binocular Telescope. This is the most powerful telescope in the world. In fact, they told us they can get better images of space than the Hubble Space Telescope can. Now, attached to this telescope is an infrared camera named Lucifer, which is really a kind of an odd name for a camera. And you know, from the information that we gathered, this thing was named by the Max Planck Institute and some German astronomers. But the Vatican is part of this conglomerate up there, that they're all working together. Now, what this instrument's used for is astrobiology, for looking for exoplanets, looking for other worlds. And the infrared spectrum is also very useful for seeing things that can't be seen with the naked eye. And many UFO researchers have noted that you can see a lot of ships and entities that you normally can't see.
The day that we spent on Mount Graham, the entire day there, we had the Jesuits speaking to us face to face. We also had systems engineers. It was astonishing, the access that they gave us. And one of the things we found amazing in the use of the Lucifer device and even the other telescopes is how commonly the astronomers spoke of UFOs. We were just taken back by the fact that it was almost a nuisance to them.
All they do to keep you from truth. Consolmagno believes aliens will be man's savior. Since he is a Luciferian, this only makes sense. The elite believe Lucifer is the savior, the sun, the light. You must know the occult mind. Light means dark and good is evil. It is based on deception. Know your enemy. Just like in every secret society. Freemason, Jesuit and the rest. Only the ones in the upper high levels know exactly what is going on. But that means all high-level government and religious and scientific leaders know exactly what is happening, and what they are doing. In 1969, NASA passed a federal regulation dealing with extraterrestrial exposure. The Extraterrestrial Exposure Law offers a legal precedent for the detention and indefinite imprisonment of any individual who comes into contact with extraterrestrials. It is a common belief that the Vatican and many leaders of the world are controlled by extraterrestrials, which is of course true, as they are Luciferians. If this topic shocks you, you need to wake up and do more research. This is nothing new, but it is kept hidden from you and due to your mental programming. 57 net demon races are known to governments. How many do you know?
The Vatican has recently openly declared it believes in alien intelligences, which gives us the thought that they must somehow have been in contact with them. Many top Catholic theologians and astronomers, like the Reverend Jose Funes of the Vatican Observatory on Mount Graham in Arizona, believe not only is it okay for Catholics to believe in alien visitors from other worlds, but should we ever come into contact with them, we should treat them as brothers. Corrado Balducci, a theologian and member of the Vatican governing body, the Curia, and an insider closer to the Pope than most people, has gone on Italian national television to actually proclaim that extraterrestrial contact is a real phenomenon. How does he know this? How does he know contact with aliens is real? Unless the Vatican has actually been in contact.
There is no such thing as unidentified objects, flying or otherwise. There is nothing new and everything has been exposed for thousands of years. They simply keep it from you. That is not the same as it being unknown. Your ability to get knowledge is censored and will only become more so as the masses feed the system and beg for more security, relying on the government, the mass media, the propaganda and lies created by the elite, to tell you what you need to know and keep you happy and safe. After all, these things were only made for your benefit, to give to you, like Facebook, just made and given to you for free so you can have fun and be happy. That is the only purpose the elite have. Hopefully you can see the idiotic delusion that is. It is your responsibility to learn and research and find truth. Do not be fooled by the propaganda and movies. See the signs, read between the lies. The elite are bloodline, dedicated, Luciferians. Of course they have contact with Lucifer and demons. Of course they cannot openly tell you they have communication with Lucifer and the fallen ones. But they can make movies about aliens, release certain government documents at strategic times, give you little by little, leading you into how to view them, manipulating your mind. So when they are finally able to tear the veil, you will be helplessly ignorant, unable to think for yourself. If you are still convinced aliens will be peaceful and good, look deeper and see truth.
The cattle mutilation syndrome is a UFO-related phenomenon characterized by the finding of dead mutilated farm animals in isolated areas with no physical traces of the responsible for the deaths, i.e., no footprints, no crushed grass, no tracks, and no snow prints in the winter. It has been found that the bodies are totally drained of blood, and there are no trace of blood anywhere on the ground. Incisions of different types are found on the bodies, all of which are so clear-cut that they would have had to been done with an advanced technology that quite frankly didn't exist when the mutilation started before 1970. Various body parts are found to be missing. Normally, sensory organs, eyes and internal ears, tongue, the glands of the throat, mammary glands, sexual parts, navels, lower intestines, excised in such ways that suggest the use of a laser-like instrument and round sucking cups, unknown to medicine. From 1960 onward, rumors began to be heard about findings of similarly mutilated human corpses, horror stories that were rapidly dismissed as misinformation or sensationalist material. This matter, generally considered to be of very bad taste, surfaced again in 1988 when the Skywatch International Open List published a short text purported to be based on a secret report relating the death of an Air Force sergeant by the name of Jonathan P. Lewitt, abducted at the White Sands Missile Test Range in March of 1976. According to the report, his nude body was found 3 days later in the middle of the desert, horribly mutilated. The tongue had been removed from the lower part of the jaw, the eyes were removed, the genitalia and the anus all the way to the colon, excised as, quote, as through a plug. The autopsy report confirmed that the body had been completely drained of blood. The following year, Donald Ecker, then responsible for the Idaho MUFON Directory, investigated the story of the finding of a mutilated body in a remote place near Bliss area, Idaho, with extensive mutilations in the face and complete excision of the sexual parts and other abdominal organs. During the investigation, Mr. Ecker found that there was a generalized and near absolute predisposition to repress the entire story, including among ufologists, deeply divided between those who see the extraterrestrials as harbingers of a new age and those who think they are nothing less than the precursor demons of the apocalypse. This 1994 abduction case involves the most disturbing death of a single human being ever seen, and is often called the most disturbing case of alien abduction ever seen. The abductee in this case was subject to a brutal mutilation, yet the reality is that what happened to him is far more disturbing than brutality. This was systematic mutilation. Whoever they were, they had a level of stunning precision. They were specific about what body parts and internal organs they wanted. They removed the left eye, the left ear, the lips, the tongue, and the jawbone. In the upper torso, 2 drainage holes were perfectly cut into the chest, and the entire rectum tract had been cored out, leaving a large gaping hole, similar to how an apple core remover will slice out the center, leaving the outside fully intact. Further perplexing is the fact that there was no blood. It is clear that this systematic mutilation was executed with speed, precision, and powered by an advanced intelligence. And that is what makes this case so disturbing. If we are to assume that this abduction was carried out by an alien intelligence, then it also may be time to revise our data regarding the conceivable specific intentions, moral perspectives, and general agenda that some of our extraterrestrial visitors may have.
How have the elite kept their plan of deception intact and progressing for so long? Because their control center, the Vatican, has always confiscated and hidden history. This should be obvious to you now. Nothing has changed in 5,000 years. The elite continue to make war to destroy truth and occupy territories, keeping the plunder and leaving you with nothing but twisted deceptions and propaganda, keeping archaeology and ancient documents from you, translating them incorrectly knowing you believe all they give you, to control your view of reality, to control your mind. They rewrite history. They can create nothing. They can only deceive and twist truth. They are deceivers. This may make finding truth seem a daunting task, which is why, since we have followed and exposed the elite more than most through history, we hope you will use the resources we have put out for you freely to help light your path, while there is still time. Truth is rarely fun, rarely makes one feel nice or pleasant. Truth creates issues because it forces responsibility, which means there are consequences. We are accountable. We must act. The weak people of today cannot handle responsibility. They must push it off to others, to governments, to save them from responsibility. If we are to win and delete the elite, we must be human again, powerful and strong and focused. We must take a stand. Open your mind. Why do you believe what you believe and disregard all else? Do the research. To conclusion. Go further. Find truth. You will never know it if you do not seek. No one can tell you what truth is because you will not listen or believe it anyway. Even the videos and proofs we put out to you are pointless and worthless unless you do more. You must break down your own barriers and find it for yourself. We can only give you an open door. You must walk through it yourself. The Vatican, Rome, the stronghold of the elite, has been behind every war, every crusade, every genocide. In history, the bloody puppet Pope and his controllers have murdered and deceived humanity for all of history. So it continues today. Know your enemy. The eye of the elite is Rome, and its gaze is on Jerusalem. Stay vigilant as things will now become interesting. It is time. Expect it.